Welcome, everyone. I'm Amy Seeley, president of Seeley Test Pros and Leap, helping students to succeed in all kinds of tests from 8th grade to grad school throughout Ohio.
And I'm Mike Bergen, president of Chariot Learning and TestBright, helping students and teachers alike exceed their educational goals, based out of Rochester, New York.
Between the two of us today, we have over 60 years of experience at the highest levels of the test preparation and supplemental education industries.
We both love to talk and learn about the latest issues in education, testing, and admissions. So let's get down to tests and the rest. The fascinating topic we want to explore today is ourselves. Welcome to another episode of EXTEMP with Amy and Mike. Hello, Amy.
Hello, Mike. Do you know how much I look forward to this conversation with you every month?
Well, it's funny because we speak all the time, but these are really nice opportunities to check in and share things that are going on, things that will go on. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, obviously, we talk a lot about business and things we're doing, but to be intentional about also talking about the fun stuff in our lives, where actually sometimes now I have to stop myself from telling you something. Like, I'm going to, if I tell him now, then it won't be as much fun as, revealing it in the recording for, that month's EXTEMP episode. So, yeah.
This is not a great replacement for like when we're actually in the same place at the same time and we can walk and talk for hours.
Oh, we can. We have.
Gets us close to that.
Yeah. We never stop talking, Mike. Actually, we can go on and on as we've discovered on plane rides and such, right? Yeah.
That's right. As our guests discover to their dismay.
I think people watching us would be like, what the heck? So what, we were laughing right before we went on. What have we been up to this month? Well, sometimes these months are going by so fast that we could barely remember what we did because the time is, it's so cliche, but it's so true anymore. The time flies. So what have you been doing?
So, it's interesting because this is kind of a slow period as far as direct tutoring goes. Once you get past the April ACT, there just are not a ton of students getting ready for the May SAT
I totally agree.
Or the June. I mean, some students, believe it or not, haven't even buckled down to begin for June. Truth. And we're already saying, like, let's talk about August.
Well, it's like that planning phase. You get, when you call it kind of a test prep lull, if you will, you got to sort of get yourself ready for the next, the next bout, crew, classes, whatever. That's, sort of where I think I find myself.
It's a major planning phase. And that's the thing. So it feels, like if you look at your calendar, you have these big blocks of unbroken time, but that time needs to be filled with planning. And, again, like the summer is such a busy time, but if you don't put all your events in place and get your marketing together in spring, you won't have much of a summer.
Well, you know what it means for me, Mike? It's figuring out when the real things have to happen. So then the fun things can be planned around it,
There you go.
So that's really what it comes down to for me.
I like your philosophy.
Right. No, it's something about, I think I will say, like, just understanding that being strategic with one's time. Because if you don't, if you don't manage it or you don't plan it, it's gone. And so this is where then you realize, I can accomplish more by sitting down and sort of figuring that out.
There's so many quotes about just how, like, we've all got the same 24 hours in a day. It's how you use it that matters. And success, or let's say productivity, depends on how you use that time.
Yeah.
So I like those unbroken hours. There's some things, like I'm working on a marketing piece. And I hate working on marketing pieces.
Oh, who does?
And, right? Who loves it? But I'm working on it. And, like you can't just say, well, I have an hour to do this. Maybe after an hour, you're not there. Maybe after 2 hours, you're not there. Maybe after days of sitting on this, I'm still not there. And so I keep looking for the time. Maybe today is the day I get it done.
Well, there's a little bit about when I start something, I start like the one task, let's say, of marketing, but then sometimes there becomes more vision of like, well, I have to incorporate this or add this. And so then there's a little bit of, I like kind of doing the thing and then the stepping back and saying, what else can I include here? What else I always feel like with communicating and marketing, like you get one shot sometimes. So make sure that first hit, you didn't leave something out because, You don't want to be like, I have to send 5 more emails out because I didn't put that in the first one. And now you
Yeah.
look like kind of, then people are less inclined to like follow your message sometimes. That's how I think about it. Yeah.
So true. I wanted to share that we have discussed the project that I had getting my kitchen together. And the
Yes.
goal of the whole kitchen renovation was to create a social space. And we put it to the test. We had my brother
So you're
and
socializing there
sister-in-law
now.
and niece over
Oh, nice.
during their spring break and Easter, and it really did come together. We were just like that was the social space. Everybody was hanging out in that now combined kitchen
Did
dining
you
room with
stand
the
in that and
peninsula.
like see it? Like, were you able to like rise above and like, oh my God, this is exactly what
Totally.
I
As
envisioned
it was
happening?
happening, we
Yeah.
were able to like multiple people could cook at the same time. We
Oh,
had
that's
enough
awesome.
space for everything. It was really nice.
Oh, there's nothing better than like when a plan comes together and then you get to realize like all the work or effort or struggle is now you're on the other side of it, right?
That's exactly right. So it's good
Yeah,
times. All
that's
right.
great.
Now, speaking of good times, Amy, good time Amy went on another trip this past month. Tell us all about it, please.
Good time, Amy. Love it. You know how I love nicknames for myself, so I'll take good time, Amy. So I just got back from the Grand Canyon with my 79-year-old mother and my 10-year-old daughter. And one thing I do want to make a pitch for is in planning any trip anymore, I use Chat GPT prior to and during to almost like curate what we were going to do when. And I can't say enough about how helpful that is factoring in my seven. Like I put all that information in. So Chat understood exactly what I was looking for. But no, the Grand Canyon is spectacular. We drove through Sedona on our way up to the Southern Rim, and
Oh,
it
so
is
gorgeous.
amazing, beautiful.
Yes.
And I think one of the most exciting things is when we got to Mather Point at the Grand Canyon, and as we walked up to it, and Annie, my 10-year-old, is standing over looking over the fence, and I watched her face,
Yeah.
and it was just her eyes were like popping, and
Yeah.
I had that moment where I looked at her and I said, this is why we came here. Like, isn't this amazing that we get to experience this? And
Oh, I'm so
it
glad
was
that she
so
loved it.
cool to see that on her face. Now, I'm not going to lie, by the end of the third day, she was not getting out of the car to appreciate every vista that I
That's right.
served to her.
Hmm.
It was amazing to see the Grand Canyon from different points, different times of day. We got to experience a sunrise, a sunset, the stars. You and these
Yeah.
dark
How it's a
sky.
dark sky preserve, right?
It
And so
is
you see everything.
phenomenal. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it is, that was sort of something I didn't anticipate. And when I got to experience it, it was amazing. Basically, like if you go to a planetarium, they start with here's the night sky when there's light, and then they turn it all down and you see all the stars. It's that experience, except you're literally doing it for real.
If you
Um,
never get out of a city or a well-lit suburb, you don't know what the Milky Way looks like and how to see this haze of stars across the sky at
Yeah.
night.
And we had bought a star guide. Now, my favorite constellation now is Orion because it's the
Yeah.
easiest one for me to
It's easy to
spot.
say, yeah.
And it was like he couldn't have been more obvious to me. And so you do understand in a way where like early cultures looked at the stars and created these like constellations or shapes out of them. When they're that visible, it is much easier to understand how they were, no pun intended, connecting the dots. But that was amazing. I just, again, like nature, I'm in constant awe of nature and so glad we made the trip. And like as we've traveled to national parks, it's fun to get another one under your belt.
That's right. And a major one, right?
The hiking was not our level of hiking, but the beautiful thing about
Yeah.
is there's so many levels of how you can experience the Grand Canyon that even if someone said they had issues with mobility or whatever, I will say this much, there are so many ways that you can still appreciate it, even if you can't climb down the canyon. And by the way,
No.
we climbed
But
down about
that
35
is,
minutes and we were back up because I was like, this is as much as any of us are going to be able to do. So
I have to
yeah.
share that when I went to the Grand Canyon with friends, we went camping, and then we hiked down, and I was a smoker at that time. And I remember,
I was
even,
never a smoker, Mike.
yeah, I was quite a smoker. And I remember getting out of that. Canyon
Oh,
was one of the toughest hikes I'd ever had.
huffing and
We were
puffing.
on the trail following the mules
Yeah,
out. It was
right.
just, but also it was just incredible to be immersed in the canyon in
Well, the
that
thing is, then that's a whole new level of vista. Walking down and being like kind of quote unquote like
going
in it.
right. And then as you're coming up, all you see is the wall and the stratification of the stones.
And the interesting thing, which I learned of, is something called the Great Unconformity. Have you ever heard of that?
No, the great unconformity.
There
Interesting.
are, so think about the stratification, layers
Yeah.
of rock that represent periods of history time, right?
Yeah.
Just we just know this about the sediment and the way it's sort of, the deposition. There are missing parts.
Really?
Like there are layers that should be there that are not, and they call that the great unconformity, which is like fascinating.
Wow. What is
Yeah,
the
I mean
theory behind
that.
it?
Yeah, there's a whole. Well, I just erosion, that there are
Uh,
periods that could have actually like literally like eroded away.
yeah.
So that in of itself, right? Like I mean, like geology. I never thought it was much for rocks, but then you go to the Grand Canyon and you become fascinated by like all the levels of rock and the kinds of rock. That's the thing about travel, right? You get exposed to something you either never knew about, you start to be interested, you have questions, and so I
Mhm.
think that's why travel is so wonderful because you're
Yeah. Or
constantly being
talking to
exposed to
travelers. You
something.
just taught me something
Yeah.
that I did not know. And this
Now,
is awesome.
the only thing was how the trip ended, Mike, of course, which is that on the way home, we had to fly to LA to fly
Uh,
home. There was a disgruntled passenger who was disgruntled before they boarded. I think, to be fair, I think some level of mental illness.
mentally disgruntled.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely some issues. She was with her family, husband, and two adult children. And long story short, it led to we had to make an emergency landing in Kansas City
Right.
for her to get off the plane, which
To
that was a whole
be
thing to
forcibly
witness
deplaned.
to watch the flight attendants take action. There were male passengers involved.
Wow.
Then I see the
Yeah.
duct tape come out,
Right.
and they had to duct tape her.
That must have been really traumatic for
Well, it turns
everyone.
out she was in the emergency row,
Yeah.
but she was spouting off and yelling and saying things that you knew weren't, that were just somebody who was not mentally there.
And you mentioned that she had family with her that was
It
apologizing
was
for her.
really, I felt her daughter was walking up and down the aisle saying, "Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your understanding." And so you felt for them. Doesn't change the fact that, it's scary to have a passenger like that.
Yeah.
But I will say, to the credit of the American Airlines and the other passengers, we landed, they immediately removed her, and we were up back in the air within probably like 25 minutes. So it
That
was
was amazing to me
inconsequential.
that you landed and it wasn't a 4 hour
Because
window
that's
that
what
you
you
had to
thought, like,
kill
oh, are we
time.
going to
Yeah.
get home? Yep. So to be fair, they know what to do. The airlines crew knew what to do, and so we were very appreciative at the end of just what they had to like manage in that flight. Yeah. So interesting travel story. You accumulate those along the way,
Yeah.
right?
It could have
Yeah.
been worse.
It could have been way
They
worse.
could have taken you too.
Mike, I kept my mouth shut.
You're like, yeah, I
Nobody
agree
knew.
with you.
Nobody would knew my level of crazy.
I would hate to hear about Annie having to apologize to everyone for you.
Her mother. Someday, Mike.
Someday. Someday.
All right, let's turn to tasks, like the real work of our lives.
Well, we were talking about how this is a planning period, and right?
Right.
And there's a lot of things that get done. So, what time-sensitive tasks are you tackling this month?
So this week, like we do high school admissions test prep. And so for me, that means I've got to, like, this week, I now am anticipating essentially the next 6 months of helping prepare eighth graders for high school admissions tests like the HSPT or the IC. So that meant coming home like, oh, I've got to make the schedule. Well, when you make the schedule, then you've got to make a flyer. We also do a webinar. Got schedule that date. Got to email admissions counselors for that. Got to make the email to then promote. So it's that whole realizing how pivotal it is right now to get that all planned, all that set up in the system to be able to register. So it was like, so I'm not finished with all the tasks, but I will say that has been this week realizing once I get all this done, then the whole launching of the program. But the other thing is my marketing newsletter. I like last night. I've got the next 2 months every week. Well, what's the topic we're talking about? And I sometimes change it, but if you're blogging, like getting ahead of topics means it feels good when you're like, I got a bunch of topics to talk
Yeah,
about for the next
totally.
2 months. So that I'm feeling really good about where I'm at in terms of at least the next 2 months that way, which is great. How about
That's
you? What
awesome.
are your time
Yeah.
sensitive tasks?
So, I mean, I've always got these like newsletters that got, the roots to words every day. And I just delivered a College Eagle this week,
That was the one about, oh my God,
Hampshire
what?
College.
Yes, but I loved the canary in the test prep coal mine.
I appreciate you saying that.
I
College coal mine,
appreciated
right?
that
Because like
reference.
it's indicative of what's going to happen in a lot of schools. But it took a long time. And I got to admit, writing College Eagle isn't easy for me. Just because as much time as we spend
Talking
talking
about
about
college.
college admissions in that world, it's not my focus the way education and learning and training and test prep are. So it's more of a push for me.
Hmm.
So like it's something I work up to and I take some time with. Whereas the other things, I write the tutor newsletter almost every week, and it's like that's
That feels
much
more
more natural.
natural. So
Yeah.
basically, what is you're saying it's sort of coming up with the ideas that you feel like you want to develop in a newsletter is a little bit more,
Totally. And that's what I
yeah,
mean. Like everything that you want to say comes from a seed, but good writing involves a lot of rewriting. Good
yeah.
writing doesn't just flow easily all the time. Sometimes it's a ton of work. That's like the marketing piece. So I have to create a marketing piece because we're going to be at IECA
We are. That's coming
next
up next
month,
month.
and
Yeah,
I need a test bright marketing piece
gotcha.
that I'm also going to share as an insert at the NTPA conference. So I've got to design this thing, and it's just a chore.
Hmm.
So I'm working on that. I'm trying to plan some summer classes to go with
Hmm.
tutoring. I mean, tutoring, we're practically full for the summer.
Yeah.
We're still not completely full, but we're getting there. But, the classes are the pain
Well, because
to
you think of
plan
I did
ahead.
the same thing for the summer. What days of the week? What do I not want to conflict with? And when do I think students are available? Because every year it's been like a little bit different about how we try to lay out, like especially our classes for the July ACT
Yeah,
or for the August SAT. I know exactly what you mean.
exactly. And I've got one other time sensitive task on my plate that has nothing to do with work.
And what is that?
That is getting my plants. So I'm putting in more plants this
The
year. I'm
gardening.
gonna grow
Yes.
strawberries. I'm growing potatoes. Like I'm trying some new stuff. And so I had to think about like, okay, when I really
Oh,
got to
right.
get
Because
these into
when
the
you
ground.
plant
So
things
I just
matters.
ordered some strawberries. I got a
Okay.
strawberry tower, and then I'll put that in. I have trees coming next week that I have to put in, and then I'm gonna get potatoes, and I'm gonna set up some potato bags. Have you ever seen these things?
I have not.
Potato
I am
bags?
not a
Potato
gardener.
bags are
I don't have a
really
green
cool.
thumb like you do, Mike. Ah,
I wouldn't say that I have a green thumb, but I mean, like I can throw something into the ground. So potato bags are cool because they're made of cloth or they're made of some kind of resistant fabric, and they're cylindrical. So
mm.
you put your potato in and like your seed potato and some soil, and then as it grows, you keep filling it and then you keep rolling it up so that it
Oh.
goes from, say a quarter all the way to the full, maybe 2 foot tall bag. And then the ones that I got, they have a window that you can open
A
so that you
window in
can
your
just grab the
bag.
potatoes from the bottom. You don't have to uproot it. You just dig, you reach your hand in and you grab a potato.
That's amazing. I had
I'll
no
let you know if it
idea.
works for me. That's
You're gonna have to send me pictures of these, like how this evolves. Yeah.
yeah,
But
totally.
no,
No, it's yeah.
it's funny that you say that, right? Because obviously, yeah, um, gardening requires planning, and there's times that you have to get things in there. And yeah, yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, I'm contending with like when's our frost-free date and when do I put it in? But I gotta say, like planting this stuff, like all the work that goes into it, on a little suburban plot is way more cost and effort than just buying it at the store, right? You can buy strawberries at the
Mike
store. You
wants to
could
eat
buy
his own potatoes and
the
his
tomato.
own
There's something
strawberries.
about, so I just made this week, I made a potato ramp chowder.
Mm.
And ramps are these wild leek
Oh,
relatives. They
okay. I've
grow
never heard of
throughout the
them.
Northeast. And so mid-April is ramp season, and everybody gets really excited because you got to go
Oh,
out, you got to know where they are, you dig them up. You don't grow them. They're not agricultural, right? They're
right.
wild. You forage them. And
Okay.
like churches have their ham and leek suppers this time
Yeah.
of year and all this
Uh-huh.
stuff. So we spent the weekend with friends and they have a lot of ramps growing. So we were hiking and we brought a shovel and a bag and we pulled up leeks and I brought them home
That's
and I'm like, okay,
cool.
now I want to make something that I haven't made before with them. And just to know that I dug them up on Sunday and I ate them, I cooked them up on Tuesday makes it taste much
The
better.
fruits of your labor.
The fruits of labor, no matter how mild or involved that labor is, there's just something to it. There is something to the tomato, the cherry tomato you pull off the vine. It tastes
Do
a
you
little
enjoy,
better.
when you're talking about the foraging, did you enjoy the foraging of it? Is that the first time you've kind of quote unquote like foraged for something?
Not the first time, but I mean
Okay.
it's I think it's the first time in a long time we've pulled up ramps
Okay.
and it was just the timing was perfect. And I'd
Mm-hmm.
like to do it every year. Like the
Yeah.
ramps are good. They're really
Yeah.
good, but I mean everything that's onion and garlic related is
Is
good. You can't go
delicious,
wrong
right?
cooking
You
it.
can't go wrong with anything. Yeah,
But you
oniony or
can't get
garlicky.
ramps like you could get ramps at a farmer's market, but you'd be hard pressed to get ramps at a store.
What do they look
So
like?
unless you got it,
What do they look
they
like?
are like little small.
Are
It's
they
hard
like
to.
a green onion or
They're
like
just like
where they've got
greens.
like a
They're kind of.
stalk and like a bulb?
Yeah, but
Mhm.
not really. Like the bulb is very thin.
Okay.
It's just more like a tiny leek.
Okay.
It's a very tiny leek, and you got a lot of greens at the end. It's much more tender than a leek.
Okay.
Some people eat them raw. They're
Okay.
slightly garlicky, but not as sharp as if you ate
Yeah, like a clove
an
of
onion,
garlic. Yeah, or an onion. Yeah,
or a
gotcha.
clove of garlic.
So
No, they're
you learned
nice.
something new. I've never heard of a ramp. So look, that's what I'm
I
taking
never
away
heard of
from
the
this
great
episode.
unconformity. So there we go. So
No. Now in the extemp, when you talk about like something you've made, you're going to have to include a recipe, Mike.
I'll
Mike's,
include the recipe for my potato ramp chowder in the show
you are
notes.
quite the chef. I mean, yeah, in the show notes, Mike's recipes.
It's
Cooking
not my
corner.
recipe,
Now,
but it's
no,
somebody's
that's
recipe.
a new newsletter for you, Mike.
Yeah, right.
That's what you need.
And I made this vegan for my wife, so
Oh, nice.
it came out great.
Hey, I didn't ask for your birthday because you just celebrated your birthday. Did you get a good cake? I can't remember. I know is did you get a
Oh
cake for your birthday?
yeah, I got my favorite cake, which is a mocha cake.
Mocha cake. That's right. I knew
Mocha
that there was a
cake. You
special cake
can't get
that
mocha
you,
cake anywhere else,
yeah,
and
yum.
it took a while, but we
Hmm.
finished it off.
Oh,
And
good.
now I
Cool.
regret not having it anymore.
Awesome. Well, let's move to something, really sort of deep here, Mike, right? We're going to move into deep conversations. And that is, what is one principle that you try to live by every day?
Do you want to start?
No, I'm asking you first. I'm going to hear what you say.
Sure. So, what I try to do every day is take care of something for my mind, for my body, and for my soul. And so,
Mm,
like, so every day I'm going to do some kind of exercise. I'm going to do something, not just walking around. I'm going to do something specific. It's easy to do because I learned from our friend Rob Pollock that if you do squats while you're brushing your teeth in the morning, then you just bang out some exercise
oh my God.
early in the day.
Now I'm never going to brush my teeth again without thinking about squatting. Actually,
Oh
that's a
no,
good idea.
don't just think about squatting. Actually squat. Just do it. Do a
Well,
bunch of
I
squats.
will,
Yeah. And
but
then
no, that's a good idea.
it really is a habit that once you develop it, it's just
Well,
exercise you're
that's
going
like
to
an
do every day.
that sounds like one of those atomic habits. Like you saw a little thing you can do, right?
Well, I think that's that's the idea. So, like, if I start my day that way and I end my day with 15 minutes of reading, like right there, I feel accomplished. Like, I feel like if I read, if I can unplug and instead of staggering from the computer to the bed, I do a little reading, then I've done something, right? I just want to push the ball forward in everything, or like, if you're Sisyphus and you're pushing the rock up the hill. right? I got to push every one of those rocks because there's more than one rock. There's your physical rock, there's your
Mhm.
intellectual rock, there's your emotional rock, there's your business rock, right? There's your relationship rocks, right? Like all those things. I want to do a little something every day.
I'm going to remember that. Actually, what I'm going to start going to do is a self-check and inventory at the end of every day. How did you feed your mind, body, and soul today? That's actually really I'm gonna take that in and see if I can't.
And see if you could do that. I got to admit, I started doing a journal at the beginning of
Hmm.
the year. I started journaling to like
Okay.
kind of do that, and
Yeah.
I didn't like doing the inventory. I didn't actually like checking, make sure I fit all the boxes.
Was it in holding yourself accountable or just the fact that you're like, oop, today went by and I just didn't think about it?
No, more it was like it really felt unnecessary.
Okay.
If I'm doing it, then I'm doing it. If I'm not doing it, then like what am I just didn't want to add another chore to my day.
Right.
I wanted to do it to kind of assess certain trends that you can't track over time. Like, how did I feel today? Like, how was my health? Like, things
Yeah.
like that that I would forget, but it just felt tiresome.
Yeah. To add that piece in. I get you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like that. I mean, who knows? That might become my new principle. But I think, when I think, I don't know that I would say every day, but when I try to think about what are principles, what's there is one principle that's actually really important to me, and that is if it's, and I think I might have said this in the podcast before, but if it scares you, you should do it.
Yeah.
And obviously I have exceptions to that, but the point of that for me is there's so much in life that we can be uncertain or afraid of, and trying to realize that, like, never letting fear keep you from doing something. And I look back, and I think the reason why it's so important to me now is as we age, right? And we have more time under our belt, and we sort of like have that hindsight, right? Is realizing I've always thought like the most difficult things that I probably have ever done, I am the most appreciative of, or I realize
Right.
now. And so I think there's this tendency of fear kind of holding back from it. But when we sense fear is trying to understand what's making us afraid, like what is it that's making us afraid? And, kind of in that space of like fear and action is the growth, right? Of doing
Yeah,
something.
absolutely.
And so to me, when I feel like I notice like kind of you feel the fear in your body, it's sort of the conversation that I have with myself of like, well, what's making me afraid?
Yeah.
And so kind of I think what it does is it generates some self-reflection. So for some reason, fear responses in me it probably makes me the most reflective
That's
of the
really good.
why.
I mean, right? Because so many people flinch from things that they fear and they create a life where they don't have to confront their fears.
Right.
And then, right, how that feels adaptive in the moment, but then when you look over time, you're like, you didn't do anything that made you nervous, that made you anxious, that threatened your sense of self.
Right. And I think a lot of
That
times there's certainly people can have the fear of failure. Like, am I afraid of doing this because I'm afraid of failing? And I like to think I'm not afraid of making mistakes or failing, you know.
hmm
Now maybe I'm afraid of dying.
Well, I mean, that's healthy, right?
So I mean, to be fair, I'm not like parachuting, jumping out of planes or whatever. But at the
Oh,
same time,
you'll
I
jump
think,
out of a plane one day. That's gonna happen.
but if I were confronted with that, like imagine you and Scott and Claire be like, "Hey guys, we're going to jump out of a plane." It would be really difficult for me to say no because I'd be like, "What's holding me back?"
Right.
So
Yeah.
some of it is that obviously there's also some safety in being brave when other people are there to be
Well,
brave with you.
there's acceptable risk, right? Like
Mhm.
there are things that we should be afraid to do that we should absolutely not do.
Right, drugs and crime. That's what I say. No drugs and no crime. those are those are my absolutes, my
Right? But
boundaries.
other than that, like as educators, we have to swallow the pill that failure is a path to success. If you're
Correct.
afraid to fail, then you're afraid to grow.
Right.
You're afraid to make the mistakes that you have to learn from. And so we
Absolutely.
see this with students all the time. The students afflicted with crippling perfectionism, the ones that would rather do nothing than do something wrong?
Actually, I have two quotes here. I'm going to quote one of our guests who I wrote these down, not at the same time, different times, but Susan Powers, our good friend Susan Powers.
Yeah.
Experience is what you get after you needed it. And then adventure is what you call it after you survive.
I love that.
And so I love that because I think it is about the idea of letting yourself fail, make mistakes, but realizing in that aftermath, if there is some reflection, if there is some acknowledgement, then there's growth. And that growth is all we can ever do.
Susan is beautifully adventurous.
She is 100%. More so than us sometimes. All right. Lastly, Mike, I'm going to ask you this because you got a really good answer here. So what's coming up for you in May?
Okay. So, right. We have the thing that we're doing together, which is IACA in Baltimore. And we're looking forward to seeing lots of our friends and colleagues there.
Test prep and college advisors alike, right? IECs.
But I have a ton of travel before that. So
I know. I'm so excited for you.
Second week of May, I'm going to Barcelona.
Barcelona.
It's a family trip, and it's been so long since we've had all four members of the nuclear family. We're going together. Actually, Ivy's already in Barcelona, finishing up her semester. Right? But Mason and Sarah and I are going to, and we were trying to plan it. We're like, what are we going to do? Can we go to Spain and then Portugal? But we decided, look, in just a week, there's a ton to see in Barcelona area. So we're staying in Spain, but we are doing a day trip. I don't think I told you this.
No, you didn't. Where?
We're doing a day trip that takes us to France and Andorra, which Andorra is its own little nation in the Pyrenees.
Yeah. And so I cannot wait.
We're just going to stop there. It's going to be cool.
I am so excited for you for this trip. I cannot wait till next month's episode to hear all about your travels.
I can't wait to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
And then, so there's a lot of it. And I think even from Baltimore, I think I'm going to go from Baltimore to the Virginia coast to visit my father-in-law, who is getting ready to move back to New York. And he lives, I've told you over the years about the amazing place he lives on a barrier island, right off a barrier island, very close to Chincoteague National Wildlife Refuge. Just such a special place that I will miss, but I'll also be glad to have him up here. And I'll be going to New York City for my niece's birthday over Memorial Day weekend. So luckily, May, there's not a lot of direct tutoring that has to happen in May.
You have a lot of plans of travel. Actually, I'm excited. I'm laughing because I got nothing. No one can believe it. Baltimore is the most exciting part of my month of May, and I'll get to share it with you.
Nobody knows what's going to pop up for you. You'll be like, this trip. But also, right, if you travel too much, then travel becomes a chore.
It's what I love the most now. I used to get sad coming home from a trip because it felt like, it's over. And that was really hard for me of coming home from trips. Now I get the benefit of going and being excited to be there. But then there's the liking coming home. And I will say that's something, a new appreciation is when I get home and I'm like, okay, I can appreciate being back home with, in my own place and with my kids. So I like that I enjoy the going and I like that I enjoy the coming back, which is kind of sweet. Yeah.
I mean, that's fantastic, isn't it? That means that basically you like to be where you are, which means you probably like yourself.
A little bit.
A little bit. I heard you like yourself a little bit, Amy.
Just a little bit.
All right. Well, obviously we could talk about ourselves all day. Unfortunately, we are out of time.
It is always a pleasure, Mike.
Oh, Amy, the pleasure is all mine.
Awesome. We hope you enjoyed this discussion as much as we did. Be sure to join us for another fascinating topic and guest on the next Tests and the Rest.
Did you enjoy this episode as much as we did? Find expanded links and more for this and all of our episodes at our show page at testsandtherest.com. While you're there, be sure to explore everything the larger TestBright site has to offer, including real, expert, unbiased answers to the toughest admissions testing questions. Of course, we'd love for you to rate, review, and subscribe to Test and the Rest on your favorite podcast platform. If there's a topic or guest you'd like us to feature, just let us know and spread the word.